What happens when a simple act of kindness turns into a confrontation no one saw coming? When the quiet rhythm of a small cafe is shattered by whispers, mocking laughter, and hidden secrets. Today you're about to witness a story that feels ripped from a dramatic film, but it's real, raw, and unforgettable. Before we dive in, subscribe to Roots of Revenge, hit like, and leave a comment because you do not want to miss the shocking conclusion. Every morning, like clockwork, she walked in. A petite waitress, hair pulled back in a loose bun, a kind smile that could warm the frostiest of mornings. The bell above the cafe door jingled softly, and the old man, sitting in the corner near the window, would look up, his eyes lighting with recognition. Mr. Harrison's days had grown quiet, lonely, until she became his constant. A warm cup of coffee, a soft word, and the steady rhythm of her presence. "You know," she said, placing the cup before him, "I think you like it stronger than most people can handle." He chuckled, deep and gravelly. "Maybe, or maybe I just like having something to look forward to." This was their ritual. Nothing extravagant, yet it carried a weight no one else understood. But today, something was different. The cafe door swung open. Confidence and arrogance entered with it. Julian Harrison, the old man's son, tall, impeccably dressed, a smirk playing on his lips. His gaze fell on the waitress, sharp, mocking. "Well, well, if it isn't the girl who thinks she knows how to serve my father," he said. The warmth of the morning suddenly felt fragile. She steadied her hands, setting another cup of coffee on the counter. "Good morning, Julian. Would you like a coffee as well?" No, I came to watch your little performance," he said, laughter dripping with cruelty. "See if my dad is still falling for your act." Mr. Harrison's hand trembled slightly as he set his coffee down. "Julian, please, not here." But Julian thrived on tension. "Come on, Dad. She's nice, sure, but do you really need a stranger to fill your mornings? Maybe it's time you see what's real, not some fantasy." A hush fell over the cafe. Customers leaned forward, sensing the undercurrent of hostility. She did not falter. "I'm not here to pretend, Julian. I serve coffee. I offer kindness. That's all anyone here needs." He laughed, harsh and hollow. "Kindness? That's rich. And your poor dad still believes it, doesn't he?" Her hands clenched slightly. "He doesn't believe anything but what's in front of him." Julian leaned closer, hunting for a crack in her composure. "Look at her. How long before you realize this is all just for show?" Mr. Harrison's eyes flickered between them. Pain, sorrow, decades of wisdom reflected there. "Julian, enough." The line was drawn, the tension nearly suffocating. Julian stepped back, smirk still lingering, voice soft but venomous. "You'll see, Dad. One day, you'll see." The cafe seemed to breathe again. She placed a hand on Mr. Harrison's shoulder. "He'll be back, won't he?" He nodded slowly, distant. "Yes, and we'll be ready." The bell jingled as the door closed behind Julian, leaving behind silence heavier than the confrontation itself. The ordinary morning had transformed into a test of courage, resilience, and quiet defiance. If you think this was intense, wait for the next part. Secrets will surface, emotions will collide, and loyalty will be challenged in ways no one expects. Don't forget to subscribe to channel name, hit like, and comment below with what you think Julian's next move will be. You're witnessing a story that will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. The next morning, the cafe was quieter than usual. The usual hum of conversation seemed subdued, almost cautious, as if the walls themselves remembered yesterday's confrontation. The bell jingled as she entered, but the old man was already there, seated at his usual spot, his gaze distant, lost in thought. She moved quietly, setting down a steaming cup of coffee, her hands trembling only slightly. "Morning," she said softly. He looked up, his eyes heavy with the weight of yesterday. "Morning," he replied. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay a tension she could almost taste. "He'll be back." She nodded, knowing he meant Julian. The son who thrived on disruption, on testing boundaries, on sowing chaos where there should have been peace. And yet there was more to Julian than the mockery he displayed. There were layers, hidden behind arrogance and cruelty, and she had seen glimpses in the fleeting moments when his guard slipped. The door swung open again, and Julian arrived earlier than she expected. But today, he wasn't alone. Two men followed him, laughing, whispering, their presence almost predatory. They didn't greet anyone, didn't make eye contact. The atmosphere shifted immediately. The regulars fell silent, sensing something about to erupt. Julian's smirk was sharper, more deliberate. "Morning, Dad. Don't mind us," he said, his voice a mix of teasing and menace. "We just came to check on things." Mr. Harrison's fingers gripped his cup. He didn't rise, didn't retaliate. He simply watched, a storm contained beneath decades of experience. "Julian, you're testing patience this time," he said quietly. The waitress took a step forward, placing her hands on the table, trying to diffuse the tension. "Please, Julian, there's no need for this," she said. Her voice was firm, but not confrontational. "We can talk, but not like this." Julian laughed, and it wasn't just a laugh. It was sharp, predatory, designed to unsettle. "Talk? Oh, we can talk all right. But talking is boring. I prefer action." He glanced at the two men with him. "Right, boys?" The men nodded, their eyes scanning the cafe as if the space itself was theirs to dominate. Customers shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered among themselves. The tension was thick, tangible. The waitress felt a chill creep down her spine. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore. This was intimidation. Mr. Harrison stood slowly, not in anger, but with authority that demanded attention. "Enough," he said, voice steady, resonant. "This is my place. If you came here to humiliate or threaten, leave. Now." Julian's smirk faltered slightly. For a moment, there was something almost human in his expression, a flicker of doubt, a crack in the armor of arrogance. But he quickly masked it with a laugh. "You've got fire, Dad. I'll give you that. But fire can burn everything around it, too." The waitress swallowed, her mind racing. She had seen fear before, but never in a father-son dynamic like this. Love entangled with control, respect clashing with rebellion. She realized just how fragile the old man's composure was. And yet she also understood the strength it took to remain calm, to let the storm pass without being swept away. Julian leaned closer to his father. "You don't get it. You think she's saving you, protecting you? She's just convenient, temporary." The old man's eyes narrowed, but his voice didn't waver. "Convenient? Maybe. Temporary? Nothing that offers kindness is ever temporary. You, however, seem to forget what that word even means." Julian's lips pressed into a thin line, his patience thinning. "You don't understand me. You never did. And she'll learn soon enough." The waitress stepped closer, her voice breaking slightly under the weight of the moment. "Julian, leave. You're only hurting yourself by doing this. You don't have to be cruel to prove anything." Julian's expression darkened, anger flaring. "Cruel? No. I'm just showing the truth. You all live in illusions. Happy mornings, perfect cups of coffee. It's all nonsense. Life is messy and you're too blind to see it." The old man leaned forward, eyes steady, unwavering. "Blind? No. I choose what I see. I see kindness. I see loyalty. And I see a son who has lost his way in anger and pride." Julian's hands tightened into fists. For a moment, the cafe seemed to hold its breath. The customers stared. The barista behind the counter froze. The very air was charged with tension. Then, unexpectedly, Julian turned away, muttering under his breath. "You haven't seen the last of me," he said, voice low but filled with menace. He strode toward the door, the two men following, leaving a wake of uneasy silence. The old man sank back into his chair, rubbing his temples. "I wish it didn't have to be this way," he murmured. The waitress knelt beside him. "It's not over," she said softly. "But neither are you. You've survived this long. You'll survive him." He looked at her then, eyes filled with gry. Days passed, but the tension never faded. The cafe felt like a fragile bubble, holding moments of normalcy while hiding the storm just outside its doors. Every morning she arrived, coffee tray in hand, heart quietly bracing for the inevitable. And every morning Mr. Harrison greeted her with the same quiet gratitude, though the worry etched deeper into his face each day. Then one afternoon, the storm returned. Julian appeared suddenly, unannounced, leaning casually against the cafe doorframe. But today his smirk was sharper, colder, and his eyes held a challenge no one could ignore. "You think you can keep things safe forever, don't you, Dad?" he said, voice low but cutting. "That nothing will touch you here, that she can protect you from reality." The waitress froze. Every word carried weight, a hidden threat beneath its casual tone. She had seen arrogance before, but this was different. This was a personal vendetta, aimed with precision. Mr. Harrison's hands tightened around his coffee cup, his knuckles white. "Julian, this stops now," he said, voice steady but heavy with warning. Julian laughed, but it was hollow, empty, and terrifying in its confidence. "Stops? Oh no, it's just beginning. You don't understand, Dad. You never understood. She's convenient, temporary, and you—" His eyes flicked to his father, cold and sharp. "You're blind." The cafe's regulars had stopped mid-sip, mid-conversation, holding their collective breath. The tension was almost visible, stretching from one end of the room to the other. The air seemed to hum with anticipation, as if the walls themselves were bracing for impact. The waitress stepped forward, hands trembling, trying to hold the moment steady. "Julian, enough. You're hurting him. But it won't bring you peace. Leave now." He turned to her, his expression darkening. "And why should I? Who asked you to interfere? You think kindness is power? You think a smile can protect him from life?" She met his gaze, unwavering despite the fear curling in her chest. "Kindness isn't weakness. And no one can protect him like I do because this isn't about power. It's about choice. It's about respect." For a moment, Julian faltered. His arrogance wavered, revealing the insecurity beneath. The son desperate to assert control over a father who refused to yield, but only for a moment. He straightened, regaining his composure, and smirked. "You're naive," he said. "But I like that about you. Makes it easier to watch you fail." Mr. Harrison stood fully, placing his hands on the table. His gaze was firm, piercing, commanding attention. "Julian, listen carefully. I raised you to know the difference between arrogance and wisdom, cruelty and strength. If you think intimidation will teach me anything, you are mistaken. Go. Now." Julian's smirk hardened into a glare. For a heartbeat, the cafe was silent. Even the background music seemed to pause, the atmosphere thick with suspense. Then, without another word, Julian stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. The old man exhaled slowly, shoulders slumping as if releasing a weight that had been pressing him down for years. The waitress knelt beside him, resting a hand on his arm. "He's dangerous," she whispered, "but he can't hurt you here. Not while I'm around." He looked at her, eyes soft with gratitude, a faint smile breaking through the exhaustion. "You've always been here, every day, even when I feared the world had forgotten how to be kind." She smiled, though worry lingered. I'll always be here, but he's not done. I can feel it. The next time, it will be worse. The cafe slowly returned to its normal rhythm, though nothing felt normal anymore. Conversations were quieter, glances more cautious. Everyone sensed it. The calm was temporary, a brief pause before the next wave. And in the shadows outside, Julian's figure lingered, watching, calculating. Each step, each glance, hinted at a plan, something far more personal than mere intimidation, a revelation that would shake their small world to its core. The regulars whispered, imagining the secrets hidden behind polite smiles and steaming coffee cups. The audience watching this story unfold, whether imagined or real, felt the tension, the suspense, and the fear of what was coming. For the waitress and Mr. Harrison, the morning had become a battlefield, and every cup of coffee, every gesture, every quiet word was a small act of defiance against the chaos Julian threatened to bring. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the floor, one truth became undeniable. This confrontation was far from over. Tomorrow, secrets would surface, loyalties would be tested, and choices made in a small cafe would ripple far beyond its walls. The cafe was unusually quiet that morning, almost holding its breath. Word had spread. Whispers of Julian's last visit traveled faster than any headline, and today the atmosphere felt electric, charged with anticipation. Every eye in the room lingered on the old man, on the waitress, as if expecting the storm to descend once more. She moved with her usual calm, but her heart pounded beneath her uniform. Every footstep, every tray she carried felt heavier than the last. The bell jingled, and the door swung open, but it wasn't Julian. It was a messenger, delivering a letter that bore his unmistakable handwriting. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed it to Mr. Harrison. "It's from him," she whispered. He opened it slowly, eyes scanning the words. A silence followed, dense and suffocating. The note wasn't just a threat, it revealed secrets of the past, family betrayals, and motives hidden for decades. Every sentence landed like a hammer, reshaping the narrative they had believed about Julian, about themselves, about loyalty and trust. Julian had exposed the fractures no one wanted to see. And yet, the old man didn't break. He set the note down, voice steady but tinged with sorrow. "He wants a reaction. He wants chaos, but we won't give him that." The waitress knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "We face it together, always." And just as quickly, Julian appeared in the doorway, this time alone, his expression unreadable, almost vulnerable. For the first time, the arrogance was gone, replaced by a raw, almost desperate emotion. "I wanted you to see," he said quietly. "I wanted you to feel the truth. All these years, I've been lost in my own anger, and I didn't know how to reach you." The cafe fell silent. Customers leaned forward, sensing something monumental about to unfold. No one dared breathe too loudly. Mr. Harrison met his son's gaze, decades of pain, love, and frustration mirrored in his eyes. "Julian, anger is easy. Truth is harder. But kindness is what keeps us whole." Julian's eyes flickered, and the mask he wore for so long began to crumble. He looked at the waitress, and for the first time, his voice softened. "And you've done what I never could. You've stayed, even when I tried to destroy everything." She swallowed hard, voice quiet but firm. "I stayed because some things are worth protecting. Some people are worth believing in." The tension in the room shifted, almost imperceptibly, like clouds breaking after a storm. Julian took a step forward, hesitant, unsure, and then another. The cafe seemed to exhale. I don't know how to fix it," he admitted, the vulnerability raw, shocking even the old man. "But I want to try." Mr. Harrison nodded slowly, placing a hand on Julian's shoulder. Then we start today, together. The atmosphere transformed. The customers, who had been silent witnesses, let out soft murmurs, a collective relief washing over them. The barista wiped tears from her eyes. Even the regulars, who had felt the tension like a physical weight, felt lighter, as if the room itself had been holding its breath and could finally release it. Outside, news of the confrontation had already begun to spread. Social media buzzed with speculation, videos of the cafe's tension going viral. Headlines declared the encounter a heart-stopping family showdown, and viewers everywhere debated the motives, the courage, the kindness that had weathered the storm. And yet, in the center of it all, there was quiet. The old man and the waitress, and now Julian, sat together. The fragile beginnings of reconciliation forming in small, careful gestures, a shared smile, a tentative hand on a shoulder, the acknowledgement that the hardest battles are not always won with force, but with presence, loyalty, and understanding. The lesson was unmistakable. Kindness can confront cruelty, patience can withstand chaos, and even in the darkest moments, humanity can prevail. For the audience, the impact was immediate. Comments flooded in, amazement, empathy, shock. People debated every gesture, every word, every decision, and everyone wanted to know, how would this family move forward? Could the wounds truly heal? And now, it's your turn. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in her place? Could you face someone like Julian and remain composed? How do you balance courage with compassion in moments of intense conflict? Don't forget to subscribe to Channel Name for more explosive, dramatic stories that make you feel like you're right inside the moment. Hit like if this story kept you on the edge of your seat, and leave your reaction below, because this is one confrontation the world won't forget anytime soon. The bell above the cafe door jingled once more. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the quiet victory, the reconciliation forming in a small cafe where courage met kindness, and where a family learned at last the power of forgiveness.